Okay, I just hope that the previous recording isn't lost. Anyway, so let's come back to our discussion. Now, we already mentioned that the PDCCH includes uh, the allocation information, and in the control region, I mean, in the beginning of subframe, all the RC connected, all the UEs in RC connected states will check the control region and uh, look for PDCCH instances, which are like PDCCH packets, with the CRC scrambled by its seed entry to check whether or not there are PDCCH instances with CRC scrambled by its own identity. The identity is seed entry. We know what the seed entry is. The seed entry is allocated in every cell. If the user moves to a different cell, it will be allocated a new one. But the seed entry is allocated only when it is in RC connected state. In RC idle state, there is no seed entry. And there are actually two seed entries. One is the ordinary seed entry, which is used for dynamic scheduling. The other is SPS seed entry, which is used for semi-persistent scheduling. So it keeps checking the control region whether or not there are any PDCC instances with the CRC scrambled by the. If it finds the message, okay, it will read that message. Okay, so this instance will be dedicated for different users. Okay, I just give me a second. Okay, sorry, I had to take a break for something. Uh, okay, so accordingly, it will now this works for both downlink and uplink. Okay, uh, so resources will be allocated from the PDCC instances, and this is something we covered actually before. Now we'll check how the resource information is provided, and here there are two things to understand. By the way, you can hear me, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, for resource allocation, basically two types of information you need. Where the resource blocks are allocated. In every subframe, there are uh, I mean, there can be many different sub resource blocks. In every slot, you have resource blocks created. And in 20 megahertz, there are 100 resource blocks. So in one subframe, there are 200 resource blocks. In one slot, there are 100 resource blocks possible in along the frequency range. So 200. So which resource blocks are allocated to a particular user? That information is given in the control region. A number of resource blocks may be allocated where they are located. So location and number of resource blocks allocated. This the PDC instance includes this information. Also, it includes what MCS has been used there. Say in the downlink, if it is for downlink, what MCS has been used. If the MCS is not notified, then you cannot recover. The decoding is not possible. You have to know modulation level and coding rate to actually recover the data for the decoding process and all. And this is true for both downlink and uplink. For uplink, also I mean, you need this information. Okay, and there are, I mean, these things. So you have to decide and also have to notify. So now we'll see how these two types of information for downlink and uplink will be are decided and notified. Now the decision is always taken by the E node B, whether it is for downlink or uplink. It is always notified by, decided by the, uh, uh, I mean, by the E node B, the base station side. Okay. Now for downlink, you have to, I mean, we already actually discussed last time that the base station will decide what you MCS level should be used for downlink data transfer. But the UE actually you knows the radio link quality because he is the receiver for downlink data transfer, not the base station. So he knows how the quality of the received signal is. But the MCS should depend on the received signal quality. So how the base station will decide. So we actually discussed in the last semester that the UE has to send a feedback. Okay, and that is called channel quality indicator, and it is done in a way that MCS the at least 10% packet at the maximum 10% transfer blocks are received correctly. The error rate does not exceed 10%. Okay. You don't have to set MCS level too low to make all transfer blocks correct. That will be inefficient. On the other hand, you shouldn't suggest a MCS level with a CQI too high, too optimistic, so that many packets are in error, and so will have too many retransmission. The retransmission will outweigh the overall packet data rate will be even lower. Okay, so there are 15 CQI levels depending on the radio link quality, and the ENODB selects the MCS levels out of 20. I mean, there are 27 MCS levels from which it decides. Okay, now the ENODB notifies this MCS level for this downlink data transfer. So the PTCC instance, instance includes the MCS level information that in this subframe, this MCS level has been used. It's a fixed MCS for a particular user. Different people will enjoy different MCS. Okay, but I mean the PTCS instance gives you that this many resource blocks you are allocated for downlink data transfer, and all these resource blocks will be combined for. I mean it is the one transport block, one MAC PDU is split into different resource blocks. So all these resource blocks form one PDU, one transport block, and that has a single MCS level which is notified in the MCS PDCS instance. If not clear, please let me know. So MCS level selection is, and it's a direct indication of the is not actually a direct indication of the downlink channel quality. If your UE has a better receiver, better quality receiver for a more expensive phone, better quality receiver, then to set 10% receiving rate, I mean, it can better counteract the errors. Okay, there are different techniques to do that. So it has to just it suggests some CQI so that the error rate does not exceed 10%. So your receiver is better, then it suggests better CQI. Your receiver, UE will suggest a better CQI because it can reduce the error, okay, with different technologies. So it has to keep the error uh, with limited uh, within 10%. So higher CQI it suggests. So higher MCAS will be used in the downlink data. So better downlink data that you will enjoy with better CQI, which can cancel some say interference or something. Okay. So and now for uplink data transfer, the the E node B decides again MCS, and the E node B is the receiver. So it is in a better position. It doesn't need any feedback. Rather, the uplink data transfer, okay, it is hearing. So from that, it can estimate the uplink channel quality. But it uses also something called SRS, some reference signals, because the uplink data transfer is confined to one particular frequency area. SCFDMA requires that the whole transmission in the uplink. Okay, in downlink, that downlink transmissions can be scattered. The radio resource can be scattered at different frequencies to achieve frequency diversity. But in uplink, they have to be confined in, because you give a single carrier like effect. So in the uplink, all the uplink transmission, all the resources are allocated uh, next to each other. I mean, they are adjoining or they are contiguous. So in the uplink, I mean, from the uplink data transmission estimation, the UNOB cannot estimate the uh, I mean channel quality at other frequencies. So it cannot decide which frequency may be the best, which frequencies best suit this particular person. Different people will be allocated different resource blocks at different frequencies depending on uh, their performance at different frequencies. Different people will enjoy different. I mean, different frequencies will be better for different people in the cell, because other people around, say other cells around, will have transmissions at different frequencies. So if someone is closer to you in another cell with using some frequencies, that frequencies will be poor for you, okay? But other frequencies will be better. Okay, so it also depends on how different frequencies are used in the in the neighborhood, in other cells around. So all frequencies will not look equally good to you, and you need to know how they are. So different SRS, I mean, these reference signals are transmitted at different frequencies. You oftentimes transmit just some. This doesn't carry any data. Okay, some transmissions the UE uses at different frequencies, from which the E node B can estimate that for this particular guy, these frequencies have this, I mean, have better performance. This at this frequency it is worse. So accordingly, it can allocate resource blocks to different people, okay, depending on the performance. Again, one of the 27 MCS levels, it will be allocated. So the E node B uh, will I mean, will decide the 27 MCS level. Uh, but uh, you know, in the uplink transfer, it is the EV who will use it. In the case of transmission, you use the MCS level, right? I mean, the guy who transmits uses the particular MCS level. So you have to negotiate a particular MCS, but that MCS will be used at the transmitting end. Now in the uplink, the transmitting end is the EV. So what happens? The PTCC instance now includes an instruction that use this MCS level. Okay, the E node P will use PTCH instance. The PTCH instance is a part of downlink. Control region exists only in downlink. In the uplink part, there is no control region. The whole subframe is used for data. There is no control region. Okay. The first few symbols are not consumed for control region. So it's in the downlink. But the PTCC instance in the downlink control part instructs the EV to use particular RBs, to use particular resource blocks for uplink transmission. And that PTCC instance also includes the MCS levels for use. Okay, that is asked the EV to use this particular MCS level. Okay, uh, it selects the E node B selects MCS level and asks the EV to use the particular MCS level. Now, timing. The PTCC instance uh, is the, I mean, for the downlink, and the downlink data you are allocated lie on the same subframe. But in the uplink, it's not the same. When you allocate PDCCH instance, you signal PDCCH instance and you allocate some resources, that resources are allocated for a later subframe, 4 subframe later. Why is it so? Because the UV needs to create the radio, it needs to prepare the resource block for transmissions, needs to prepare the data for transmission. It didn't know the MCS level that it has to use. So when it gets the PDCC signaling, okay, that it knows that this many resource blocks I can use for uplink transmission and with this much MCS data, then the EV will DQ data, will extract data from its application layer that I have this much resource blocks allocated now for transmission. I have got this much. So accordingly, it will extract data from the application layer. Okay, this much data I can now transmit. So that much data it will then uh, prepare using the modulation and coding. The coding process is long. Okay, it's a long process. So it will create the data, and this requires some time. So if the PDC signaling occurs at n, the uplink transmission occurs at n plus 4. That's how it is. It's always 4 subframes gap. Okay, it is understood that when it is allocation at n, so after 4 subs, it will allocate. But for the downlink, it's not required. For downlink, the E node B creates the data. It decides MCS, it creates the data packet. Once the packet is ready for transmission, then it sends the PDC signaling that I am going to send you data, and it sends the data. Okay, because it is all in the EVN, in the E node B end for downlink. The transmitter is the E node B. It creates the data for transmission. Once it has done with the generation of the packet, then it sends signaling and sends the data. But here it sends the signaling, and then the EV will is the transmitter. So the EV will create the packet that requires some time, dequeuing data from the application and modulation and carrying using the coding process. Okay, it will create the data. In the downlink process, now you see from PFICH, you know how the why the control region is. Then you can read only then you can read PDCs. From the PDCs, you know where the data is allocated, and you read the data for downlink data transfer. So that is called PDSCH. When the resource block from which you get the data, this is just regarded as a transmission on some channel PDSCH. Okay, but before that, you need to send. The EV will be the inner needs to decide the MCS level. Okay, so the UV actually sends CQI based on which you need it. But how do you send CQI? CQI is a feedback that which needs to go to uh, needs the U needs to send to the base station. Well, so it's an upward or uplink transmission, and that is done using push or push. If you already have some uplink data transfer going on, okay, so push, the uplink data transfer occurs on push. So you can use that to send your CQI, push. But if you have no uplink data transfer going on, then in the uplink, there is some control channel called push, physical uplink control channel. Use that control channel to send your CQI. So the first thing is that from the EV, the EV estimates CQI from downlink transmissions. There are different downlink transmissions going on. Okay, always some broadcast in the downlink. So it considers estimates the downlink data, downlink quality, radio link quality, and sends CQI. If there's uplink data transfer going on, use push to send CQI. If there's no uplink data transfer going on, then use push to transmit CQI. Then the E node B decides the scheduling and link MCS, it decides. Then on the PDCCH, it allocates, okay, accordingly. Different people will allocate a different amount of resource blocks and MCS depending on, after taking the decision. And then you send the UV receives the PDCCH in the rest part of the subframe. After the control region, from the rest part, it finds the data. Thereafter, it needs to perform HRQ and send ACK or NAC, because the MAC layer, if it is can decode, okay, it will send either ACK or NAC depending on the HARQ process. Okay, if it can recover the MAC you send ACK. If not, then NAC. Then there will be retransmission. If there is NAC, there will be retransmission. So how do you send ACK NAC? That is again some uplink transmission, like before. If there is uplink data transfer going on along with downlink data transfer, then use push to send your ACK or NAC. If there is no uplink data transfer, then use push. Okay, then the E node B will send will if it is NAC, the E node B will retransmit the data. Okay. So this is something explained here. This is something explained here. Okay, is like ACNAC or CQI. For both of them, you use push if there is no uplink data transfer. Use push if there is uplink data transfer. So it's true for your HARQ ACNAC. Now this ACNAC has some timing, and the retransmission also has some timing. This timing we will see now. You see, say original transmission, say PDCCH. PDCCH occurs on the subframe number 1. Okay, transmission, and the data on PDSH also on the same subframe. But the EV receives after a while because of propagation delay. So it's from the E node B. The first two are from the E node B. Number 1 subframe. The E node EV receives after a while. Here it receives. Then the E node B, the EV will decode and find out whether it is ACK or NAC. This requires some time because it's a decoding process. Okay, and the process takes a while. So there is actually 4 subframe gap here. If you receive it number 1, then by specification, you need to send your ACK or NAC after, on this subframe number 5. Okay. So like here, another example. Here you send ACK. It is correctly received. So it was 4 numbers. So you send the ACK on 8 number subframe. Here 1 number. You send the NAC on 5 numbers after 4 subframe. But actually the gap is not exactly 4 subframe. It is little less because for uplink transmission, we know that the timing is little shifted leftwards. Okay, the time difference we know. The U receives here, but the same number subframe is transmitted here. Okay, so the actual time gap is less than this 4 subframes. Anyway, so after the E node B receives NAC or ACK, and that reception then aligns. You know that. Okay, it is aligned here. So the E node B receives ACK or NAC. If it is NAC, then there will be retransmission. The retransmission has again a gap of gap, and this gap, just remember that only for downlink case, this retransmission is not does not have a fixed gap. It can be at least 4, but it can be larger than 4. It's from my book. So to show that it is not fixed, it can be larger than 4. I used a gap here of 5 subframes. It is 5. It goes to the next radio frame, and there is a 5 subframe gap now. You see, but it could be the retransmission could occur also here on 9 number with 4 subframes gap, but not earlier. Okay, the gap has to be at least 4, but it can be larger than 4. It can be any gap, any gap larger than 4. Okay, so again you have some PDCCH allocation. PDCCH actually signals where it is retransmitted. So you don't know where, you don't expect beforehand. From PDC signaling, you know where the retransmission is. Accordingly, you find the retransmit block, try to soft combine and do whatever HRP process. If again NAC, okay, then again send NAC, again it will be retransmitted on and on. So there can be at most 3 retransmissions. That's about downlink. Now, the PDCC instance includes this information, the resource block assignment. Okay, it has these fields, which tells you which resource blocks are allocated, how many, and where they are located. Okay, it includes this information, the resource block. Also, it includes some HARQ ID. Well, if it is Okay, NDI. First, NDI. A particular transmission can be either original transmission or it can be a retransmission. Now we know. Now we know that it can be retransmission or original transmission. Both types there can be. So this field indicates whether it is a new transmission or it is a retransmission. If it is a new transmission, then this bit will toggle. I mean, if the last bit for NDI in the last PDC generation, if it was 0, now it will be 1. Again, for the next new transmission, it will be 0. So 1 0 1 0 1 0, it will be toggling every time for new transmission. But if you send a retransmission, if you retransmit, okay, then it doesn't toggle. You keep the NDI value the same. So that indicates that it's not retransmit. It's not new transmission. It's a retransmission. Okay. Now, in the case of retransmission, it's up to you. You can send any of the 3 versions. Okay. Depending on radio link quality, you can decide the E node B. So the E node B also indicates if it is, I mean, when it is retransmission. If it is original, then you don't have this field. But if you have a retransmission, that it indicates whether it's RB1, RB2, or RB3. So it's a 2-bit field indicating whether RB1, RB2, RB2. If only when it is a retransmission, only when NDI indicates retransmission. Also, you see, now we can have actually a number of transmission, retransmission possible together. See, there is some, this one could be another transmission. Simultaneously, you could have here another transmission, here another transmission, and there could be some retransmissions. Say all of them could have some NAC and could have some retransmissions. So there could be separate retransmissions concurrently for different streams of data. Here you have a transmission. Here you have a transmission for the same guy. Another one. Okay. Now you see actually there is a gap of 4. And here also retransmission 4. So normally, and if this 4 gap comes from the fact that this gap here, you need this much gap. I mean, you need to actually ensure that you have, I mean, this process may require this type of time length. Okay. So span of time can be like this. So a 4 gap here is specified. So now, again, the retransmission, if I consider 4, okay, so this guy will have a retransmission here. And this guy, because I said that 4 time gap is the minimum. So from 1, you have a retransmission of this one, could be on 9th. So 8 gap. Again, another one, that could be here. 3rd could be here. So actually, in 8, I mean, you don't have the repetition of the original one. Of the first one, the first retransmission you have on 8. So you could have actually 8 parallel. Okay, then you repeat. Or in other words, there could be, I mean, because of this much gap, because of this much minimum requirement of gap, okay, you can have, I mean, there are 8 parallel streams of data transmission. Okay, there are 8 parallel retransmission. So the maximum number of parallel HARQ allowed is 8. And all these parallel HARQ, if you have multiple transmissions and HARQ processes separately for all of them, then they are identified using different HARQ ID. All these are marked. Say, I mean, in the first, I mean, here you have some transmission, and accordingly you have HARQ retransmissions going on. All these HARQ processes will be marked with some HARQ ID. Then you have another one that will have HARQ ID. That can also have HARQ retransmission. Another one. So separate HARQ IDs will be given, but there can be at most 8 HARQ processes possible. Okay, not more than that, because of the 8 subframe gap here. So HARQ, there can be maximum 8 HARQ processes are separated by HARQ IDs, and that HARQ ID is when you have retransmission, the HARQ ID is signaled also. Okay, if it is original transmission, you don't have it. When you have retransmission, then HRQ ID is also retransmitted. Then the modulation and coding scheme is is defined, is also signal. You know that, I mean, it has to be, I said. So for downlink data, this is the modulation coding. It's a 5 bits ID field, so 0 to 31 are possible. Now up to 28 is used to indicate, although you have 27 levels, but the 27 levels actually use up to MCS level. It can use, okay, up to 28 when you have modulation levels like this. I mean, well, we know that there are modulation levels possible. QPSK 16 QAM, 64 QAM, then also 256 QAM for later versions of LT, and also 100,024. Now, if it is 1024, then MCS from 0 to 26 are used for to set 27 MCS levels. Okay, if it is up to 256, then up to 27. Okay, for this value from 0 to 26, 7 you use for them. If it is 64 QAM, then up to 28 value you use for them. Okay, although you need some 27 levels, you can use up to those levels anyhow. But when it is up to 1024, then 27 levels fit into 0 to 26. What the rest are used for? Well, the rest are used when you have uh, you have some retransmissions. For the retransmissions, you can change the modulation type. Okay, you don't have to keep it the same. In the downlink, it is possible. Okay, HRQ retransmissions, the retransmission can use a different modulation level. It's up to you. If you want to change, then these MCS levels are used. These five values indicate the five modulation orders levels. QPSK system 64, 25, 1024. These five levels are indicated by 27 to through 31. Okay, 27 for QPSK, 28 for 16 QAM, 31 for 100. So in the retransmission, you can say now you use say 30. If you indicate IMCS 30, that includes that in the retransmission it is 256 QAM. Okay, so for HRQ retransmission you can change. That's about downlink. So the first, the values before them are used for retransmission. The rest of the value of IMCS is for new transmission, but these values are used for new transmission, and these values are used for retransmissions. Okay, then accordingly the code rate is decided. Okay, when you have the number of resource blocks and the modulation order, then you actually the code rate is decided, and that code rate is indicated by something called transport block size. Okay, that's a mapping to, there is a table which gives the TBS value, but I mean from the table actually it is possible to calculate the code rate. Now for uplink, well, you first need to tell whether or not you have some data for uplink transmission. Okay, so if you already don't have any uplink data transfer, your uplink data transfer haven't started, then there is no push available. So initially you need to use push to send a request for uplink resources. That is called scheduling resources, SR. Scheduling resources, SR. So use push to send a request that I have. Okay, push. I need to transmit. Okay, seeking resources when there is no ongoing uplink data. Then the eNode B can allocate PDCCH. Okay, to indicate included data, and we know that the data will actually be available. I mean, you can use resource blocks. It will indicate resource blocks, and the PDCCH will also indicate MCS. Okay, the PDCCH will include resource blocks, and it will also include MCS. But these MCS values you'll have to use on those resource blocks, and they will appear 4 subframes after 4 subframes. So like you allocate PDCCH here, and you read the PDCCH here, the UV reads the PDCCH here, but the transmission from the UV occurs after 4 subframes, not here in the case of uplink. Here you transmit. The E node B receives here, and we know that the time shift, okay, how the time shift is. The E node B receives here. Then if the E node B finds that it cannot decode, the E node B needs to send NAC. Needs to send NAC. So it will send NAC, and this time gap is fixed. It is always 4. I mean, in terms of subframe numbering, it is 4. Okay. So in this case, it is sending ACK. So you see, in terms of numbering, it is 4. Here also it is 4. Okay. You have 4 subframe gap. Okay. And can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Now we can hear.
Were you able to hear me until recently?
Sir,
Until
last 2 minutes was
last
interrupted.
2 minutes are lost. Okay. Okay. I didn't say anything, I think, in the last 2 minutes. Okay. So in the case of uplink, you see here you allocate, I mean, PDCCH, I mean, you have PDC signaling, from which after 4 subframe, you know that you can transmit now in the uplink. Then the E node B receives here. Then the E node B will send ACK or NAC, but in terms of subframe numbering, there is a difference of 4. You send either ACK or NAC. Okay? And this transmission occurs on a channel called PHICH. PHICH. This is the one sub channel I didn't explain when I was discussing the physical layer channels. There are 3 channels: PCFICH, PDCCH, and the third one was PHICH. I didn't say what that was. That PHICH just carries HARQ ACNAC, in downlink. So it lies in the control region, which includes this HARQ ACNAC. So you have HARQ ACNAC transmitted here. Now the EV will receive HARQ ACNAC. If it is NAC, the EV needs to retransmit. But for this retransmission, the position is fixed. Usually, you have a fixed scheduling for retransmission, unlike downlink case. In the case of downlink, the E node B sends, I mean, the retransmitted block, and it reschedules also. But here, the UE transmits. The retransmission is from the UE side, so it is already fixed. I mean, it is already, you always have a 4 subframe gap, and the radio resource block position is also fixed. It is just like what you had for original transmission. It's just the fix. So no separate PDCCH signaling is required. In downlink for retransmission, HRQ retransmission, PDS signaling was a requirement, but in uplink it is not, because it is already known. It is already, if you have NAC, the E node B knows that it will be retransmitted at this resource block. Okay, you just go ahead and use the same resource block, and okay, and also the same MCS. You don't change MCS, use the same resource blocks. I mean, at the same frequency position, you transmit. Okay, so since it is from the EV, I mean, it is just kept fixed, uh, reducing hassle, and I mean, reducing the extra PDCH signaling. So there could be further NAC, further retransmission, but the time gap is all fixed here. In the case of downlink, I mean, say that it wasn't fixed. It could be 4 or larger. But here it is all fixed. It's all fixed. It's 4. Here it is 4. Here it is again 4. Here it is again 4. All these gaps are fixed at 4. So the gaps could be, I mean, you have PDCCS and then you transmit. If there's ACK-NAC, okay, this ACK or NAC will again be transmitted, on PHICH, which lies in the control region. And if it is NAC, you again retransmit. Now, when you don't have any, I mean, before you begin actual uplink transmission, then you use SR. But once the uplink transmission starts, okay, then you just keep notifying how much data you still have in the buffer. Okay, instead of SR, you send BSR. What is that? BSR is just, I mean, you send on push because push is available. Whenever you send push, you also indicate that you have this much data already, I mean, still waiting in the buffer. It includes buffer status report. Okay, it's a number. I mean, there are 64 different ranges for the buffer sizes and some indices. For this much data, you use say a number 19. For this much data available in the buffer or waiting in the buffer, you use say 25. So you just include this BSR in the, I mean, it's actually in the Mac PDU, you include a header like control element. Okay, I say this is Mac control element. So there's a Mac control element called BSR Mac control element that includes the number. Okay, that indicating this much data I have still waiting in the buffer. Okay, so the eNodeB comes to know, and eNodeB can decide how much data it should allocate. The eNodeB gets to know the buffer status for all different users. Accordingly, it will allocate resources to different people. Okay, so BSR does that. So, I mean, if you have PDCCH on n number subframe, so urgent transmission will occur on n number 4, the NAC will occur on n number 8, and the retransmission will occur on n number n plus, sorry, n plus 4, n plus 8, and n plus 12. It's fixed. Okay. But in the case of downlink, it wasn't that fixed. This is if PDCC is on n, original transmission is also on n, NAC on n plus 4, and then retransmission can be on n plus 8 or larger. It can be n plus 8, it can be n plus 9, it can be n plus 10. Okay. Now, in the case of uplink, there is a special case, and that special case we'll discuss tomorrow. But you see, in that case, I mean, once okay, once I discuss the special case, I'll tell you why you need also NDI. Okay, and also the MCS values. Okay, when that you indicate on the PDCCH. Okay, can have some uses values up to 28 to indicate the MCS levels. You have 27 levels, but from 0 to 28, these 29 level values you use to indicate one of the 27 MCS levels. Okay? And the last 3 you use for retransmission information. Okay, but this part I need to explain. This part is used only for the special case. So there is a special case for HRQ retransmission, and this it is something I'll use. And this is something I'll just explain tomorrow. So we are almost at the end of this discussion, data transfer. This slide is uploaded. And after that, I'll discuss DRX tomorrow, discontinuous reception.
Sir,
Yeah.
what about our second quiz syllabus?
Second question, yeah, that we are supposed to set today. You can suggest me anything. You can suggest me your syllabus and also the day for the test.
Sir, we have fixed the 17th November as the midterm exam, sir, for your course,
Okay,
sir. So,
okay.
what we were thinking that if we could give the quiz at that particular day, because the mid will be held in morning session, sir, 10:30 to 12 p.m. So, if it is convenient for you, then can we, sir, fix the quiz at I mean at maybe around 2 or 2:30 p.m. on
On the
that day?
same day
Yes, sir.
and after the meet,
Yes, sir.
wouldn't it be better for you if you had it before the meet? I mean, that could be a practice for you guys, right?
Yes, sir. You can we
I
can
mean,
have the
it's up to
opinion of
you.
others.
I have no problem with what you're saying, but I thought it would be more helpful for you if you had it before the meet. Okay, you can set the syllabus, anything, but
Yes,
it would be some practice for you, better preparation for your meet.
yes, sir.
Also, I mean, with the type of my exam, you have some practice, you get some experience.
And sir, also if you could give us some idea about the midterm exam, how are you gonna take that exam, sir?
Well, like I mean, since it will be open book exam, okay, so I have to test your uh, understanding, level of understanding, and the type of questions I think will be mostly short questions, and some of them can be MCQ.
Sir,
Uh,
will we have to write the question on paper or will we have to type the question answer on the Google form?
I haven't yet decided, but it can be a combination. Okay, short. If it is short, uh, then you can write on the Google Classroom. But if there is something, I can tell you after I prepare the question. Okay,
Sir,
so
as
but
far as
is it inconvenient for you if you have to capture and upload it? I think it is not,
sir,
right?
I think as far as we could know about the department's instruction, all the exams will be taken as written form, sir, in this midterm exam, sir.
Okay, okay. So at least a part. I mean, there if there are multiple choice questions, okay, of course that you can just select on the Google Classroom. But a part can be like in which you answer on a paper and then capture and upload. So a good part can be like that. Okay. Uh, so say in I mean our courses are little different from most other courses. We have many different things. We touch upon many different things. So we can use short questions. We can test your level of understanding quickly. But for many other questions, for many other courses, you may have long derivations, or you may have long problems to solve. So in that case, it's more important that you submit your work, how, what type of approach you have used to solve the problem. Okay. But for us, I mean, if things are quick, then, but of course, I mean, I believe a good part in our exam also will be like what you need to answer on the paper and then capture. Okay. But for the class test, I think it's better for you if you have it before the. I have no problem, but you'll get some experience if you have the class test beforehand, before the midterm. Maybe say 1 or 2 days before your midterm, you can sit for it. You will be preparing. So once you finish the preparation for a part of it, you sit for the exam. Sounds better?
Yes, sir. Let us,
Yeah.
sir, discuss with everyone, and then we can
And
pick a
yeah, let
convenient
me
time
know.
and syllabus, sir.
Yeah, please let me know. Another point is I was supposed to upload a course outline, but this course outline part is a little hodgepodge this time because we are given some instructions of some course outcomes, few things. I mean, little differently we are supposed to prepare it this time. Secondly, for our 5G, we'll be covering after meet, we'll be covering from a good part. We'll cover from 5G technologies. For 5G, I am yet to get hold of the book. The book has already arrived a few days ago. I mean, we purchased it from our library. Um, it, it was shipped from USA, and so I need to check the book and set the course outline for the 5G part. So that's why I'm a little delayed, but a draft course outline, I think I'll upload by tomorrow morning. It will be available in the Google Drive. Okay. Anything else? If not, we can wrap up because it's already time for Maghrib prayer. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.